Hi everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel World of Nabeeda. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the 3 top questions you always get asked in interviews and how to answer them. Now, interviews can be a nerve-wracking time for the best of people. You want this job, you want it so badly, and you just don't know what kind of questions might come up. But there are ways you can prep and the ways you can ensure that you're getting ahead in the race. And that's by preparing for these 3 top questions that always, will always be asked. But for you, people will always ask that question in an interview. And the questions are, number 1, what's your biggest weakness? Number 2, what salary are you looking for? And number 3, tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, it's very important to answer these questions correctly because a lot of people get this process or this little part wrong, and that can actually mess up your interview for you. So it's very important to get these answers right. I don't mean prep these answers so you've got them written down and you go in there with this whole written answer, because they will know. Interviews aren't just about what you say, but your body language and how you're acting and your attitude. So it's very important to get all of those elements right and put together, but at the same time answering the questions in the right way. The first and most important piece of advice I can give you when it comes to answering questions is the importance of prep. How are you prepping? What are you reading about the company? What are you looking into? That's very important. It can help you answer all of the questions they ask because you have to tailor your answers to them. And that's why I said that method of writing your answers down and copying and pasting them for each company you're interviewing for is not the best way forward, because your answers need to be tailored to the company, tailored to the role, and tailored to their requirements. If you're not doing that, you're not selling yourself correctly, and you're basically just in there and they're just going to think this person probably isn't right for me. So how do you answer these massive questions they always throw at you? So the first question, like I said, is what is your biggest weakness, or what is your weakness? Now, this question comes up in every interview. It'll come up in application forms. It'll come up everywhere because they really want to know what's your weakness. Now, a lot of times, and I used to do this myself because people do that and I used to do that, one of the biggest ways, or one of the ways that I use to answer this question, is talk about something that's not actually a weakness and say that it's a weakness. So, I'm a perfectionist. That's not weakness though, is it? You're just telling them you like getting stuff done right or amazingly. Or saying stuff like, I like to, I make work my life and I don't know work-life balance and that's what I'm working on, blah, blah, blah. Things like that are not actual weaknesses. It's very important you're not talking about them, because they know interviewers have been interviewing for a very long time. They can see right through you when you say stuff like, oh well, I'm a perfectionist, I like to work too much, all of this stuff. They know either that's crap, or even if it's true, they're just gonna be like, what the hell, I don't care, that's not really a weakness. So it's very important you actually talk about a weakness. Now, what we don't want to do is highlight a major flaw we have that's very essential to the role and just go in there and be like, yeah, I don't know how to do this. So for example, one of the examples that I tend to use is something I'm working on and I'm consistently always working on is public speaking. Now, public speaking is something I'm not very confident in. I do it every now and then. I have to do it in my job, I have to do it in my life, but I'm not really that confident in it. So that's one of my weaknesses, and that's something I work on by doing all the things I do. However, if that was one of the key, that was one of the most essential skills for that job, that was a requirement, I probably wouldn't be the smartest person in the room if I went in and said, oh, actually public speaking is my weakness. So it's very important to know what are the required skills and experience for that role. Once you figure that out, then you actually look at yourself and reflect on yourself and say, okay, what are my weaknesses? And once you identify those weaknesses, when you're answering that question, you don't just tell them about said weakness, you tell them how you're working on improving it. Because that shows that, 1, you're self-aware, so you know exactly what your weaknesses are and you are able to highlight them. 2, you're honest and open, fair, open, honest basically, because you highlighted what your weakness was very openly. And then 3, you're very focused on development because you're telling them exactly what you're doing to change that for yourself. And you're trying to become a more developed and a better person. So that's why when you get asked that question, always tell them a weakness and how you're working on it. So for me, I always tend to say, you know, public speaking is something I'm not great at or something I always struggle with. And that's why I tend to spend a lot of my time, you know, working on my style of public speaking, as well as I actually participate in events and courses that require me to public speak so I can work on that skill, because I believe for something like this, practice makes perfection, basically, at that point when it comes to a skill like that. And that way you've answered the question, you've told them an actual weakness rather than making a fake one, and at the same time you've told them how focused you are on personal development, and that is a winning answer. Question number 2. So the second question was, what salary are you looking for? Now that question throws the best of people. People are like, I have no clue how to answer that question. Like, what salary am I looking for? I don't know. Or I don't want to undersell myself. I don't want to oversell myself. What do I do? The first thing you need to do, and this is where prep comes in again, is before going in for an interview, it's very important you do your research. So look into the area you go in for interview and see what the average for the role that you're applying for is for that area. Because once you know the average, you can set a bar and say, this is where I'd like to be at. But if you don't know the average, you're just kind of throwing something in the area like, maybe this, maybe that, I don't know. Ooh, I have no clue. So it's very important before you go into an interview, always research the salary, average salary for that role in that area. When you go in there, you're not thrown off by that question, because that question can make or break what you get. Because the reality is, it could be possible the employer can actually offer you more, but you've asked for less in the fear of like overselling yourself, or you've asked for way too much and the employer is not anywhere close to thinking of paying that, and they're just not going to do it. So if they tell you exactly how much they're open to or what their range is, that's perfect, and you can sit anywhere between that. But a lot of times companies do hide that. It's frustrating. I hate it. I always tell companies not to do that. But at the same time, it happens. So it's very important you always go in with your research. So when that question is thrown at you, you're not like, oh my God, I don't know what to say. You're like, you know what? So I looked at the average for this area for this role, and I'd like to be, you know, on X, Y, or Z, or whatever. And that way you look like you've done your research, you looked well prepped, and you've asked for the right amount, and you're gonna get what you deserve. So always do that research. Question number 3, tell me a bit about yourself. Now this is one of the first questions you get asked when you go into an interview, because they just want to know a bit about you. What a lot of people will do is tell them everything about themselves, like, I was born in Pakistan, and then I moved to the UK when I was 9, and blah, blah, blah. And you're yapping, and this person in front of you is just like, wow, like, I don't care. And it's simple as that. They don't care, and that's okay, because when they ask that question, like, tell me a bit about yourself, they don't want to know your life history, where you were born, where your grandparents came from. They don't want to know any of that. They want to know the main basic points they should be aware of for that interview. So you need to tell them the main points, not your whole life. So maybe for me right now, so I've graduated like 2 years ago. So if I was doing something like that, I would talk about, I graduated, you know, in 2018, what I graduated with, what I'm working on right now, what my future plans are, little stuff like this, or main key highlights and achievements that you would want them to know of. Don't go into too much detail, because the reality is they don't care and it's not relevant. Only talk about relevant stuff. Even when you're talking about your experiences, it's very important you've done your research on the role, what it requires, so you can only talk about things that are relevant rather than all this extra stuff they literally don't care about. You know, a winning person, or a person who really is going to get the job, is someone who has done their research, knows what they're looking for, can answer their questions by selling themselves to the role rather than just selling themselves generally, right? It's like solutions. So it's solution-based selling. You are literally selling them a solution. You are answering the problem they have with the person that you are. So it's very important you tailor yourself, your skills to that role, rather than just being like, well, I'm Nabeeda and I'm the best for this role, because that doesn't work. It's very competitive out there. You need to stand out. So do your research, do your prep, and answer those questions like you really want that damn job. Okay, I hope this video was useful. If it was, please put it in the comments below. If there's anything particular you would like to see, let me know. I have made a video on kind of creating a killer CV, which does cover some of the stuff I said, so go and check that out, because that will help you actually get to the stage where you get to answer these questions. But if you have any more questions, let me know. Otherwise, like, comment, and please subscribe to my channel for more of these videos. I post a video every week, always on career or personal development, so I'm here to help. Let me know. Bye.